Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto are the two most popular game franchises of the last 25 years. Many games have tried to copy the formulas of GTA and Call of Duty, but very few have been able to replicate either game. One game that tried to emulate both games all in one is Mercenaries for the original Xbox. Never heard of it? Well, you're not alone. Mercenaries is one of the biggest hidden gems of the Xbox and PS2 era. Mercenaries Playground of Destruction was developed by Pandemic Games and published by LucasArts in January of 2005 for the Xbox and PS2. Mercenaries is a third-person shooter, action-adventure, open-world sandbox game. Mercenaries is one of the 1,000 games that have been compared to Grand Theft Auto, and I guess I can see that? I mean, it lets you blow up stuff. Mercenaries features an open world and wide-open objectives. You can go from objective to objective if you like, but you can also blow everything up in your path and cause chaos all over. Well, there are three main characters in Mercenaries that you can play as. Chris Jacobs, who's voiced by Phil Lamar, best known for roles on Fox's Mad TV and the voice of Samurai Jack. Jacobs is a former Delta Force member from the United States. He is more confident and is more of a jokester. He can take more damage than the other characters, and he knows Korean. Jennifer Moy, voiced by Jennifer Hale, best known for roles in video games such as Baldur's Gate and Mass Effect. She also garnered a Guinness Book of World Records distinction in 2013 as the most prolific video game voice actress. Jennifer Moy was a former member of the MI6. She is more stealthy and can maneuver around and kill enemies without a trace. She is of Chinese-British descent and can speak Chinese. Finally, there's Matthias Nilsson. Nilsson was voiced by Peter Stormare, best known for roles in the movie Fargo, as well as TV shows such as Prison Break and the video game Destiny. Nilsson was a former Swedish Navy artillery officer before becoming a mercenary. Nilsson is reckless, violent, and obsessed with explosives. He moves quickly on foot to divert enemies. All these differences come in handy as you go through the game, because whether a character can understand the language of someone who hired them affects your allegiances with the different factions. Once you pick your mercenary, you're dropped into the world to do whatever you please, pretty much. You can cause destruction and blow up buildings right away, or you can perform side tasks, hijack vehicles, or pick up missions when you get tired of causing havoc and destruction. As a mercenary, you pick and choose missions from 4 different warring factions. The Allied Nations, which is eerily similar to the real-life United Nations. There's also the South Korean and Chinese armies, and the Russian Mafia. Interesting note, you can buy supplies from the Russian Mafia's website, the Merchant of Menace. Get it? Yeah, anyways. Once you choose the faction you want to work for, you'll be briefed on your mission, should you choose to accept it. Okay, I'll stop.
Clearance on it! Now who the hell is this?
Sir, this is a private contractor. XOps contacted me and I agreed.
A merc? You don't think I got enough problems? Get out of here! I don't
You catch the two of clubs yet?
The two of... No. How did you know that Jinho Young was commanding that artillery?
XOps does a good job briefing their agents, sir. You said you didn't want to hear authorization or approval. Well...
All right, we'll give it a shot. You stop that artillery, verify the two of clubs, and maybe we can do business together. Major Howard here will give you some intel.
You'll have to eliminate everyone in the, quote, Deck of 52, which is comprised of North Korean businessmen and military personnel.
There's a significant bounty for every member of the Deck of 52, especially if they're taken alive.
Does that say businessmen?
Well, counterfeiting, slave trading, if you call that business, these guys are businessmen.
The interesting part about the gameplay in Mercenaries is that, as stated above, you have no allegiance to any one faction. There's a mood meter for your character in the game. The meter changes based on whether you're friendly or hostile. For example, if you're friendly towards the Russians, they will be more willing to give you jobs. But if you are, for example, hostile against the Chinese, they will do everything in their power to eliminate you, and will not think twice about not giving you work. Your choices on who you're friendly with or hostile with affect the game as a whole. as it impacts what and how much intel you are given for any given mission, or if a certain mission is even offered to you.
Excellent. You are prompt and discreet. Of this I approve. I have another contract for you. The South Koreans are moving their troops through the propaganda village and reinforcing their positions beyond. I have stationed troops in the foe village to ambush them. You will go there and aid them. You will, of course, be paid well for your efforts.
The good part of this is that the factions have generally short memory and will offer you missions later in the game, even if you attempted to destroy them earlier on. The one faction you never want to make mad, however, is the Russians, because they run the Merchant of Menace website, where you buy all your guns and equipment. If you piss off the Russians, they'll cut off access to the website, leaving you pretty much SOL on future missions.
Yosef, look who's back. Hey, have you met Yosef? No, of course you haven't. This is how important our operation is, eh? They sent me this guy, this old Russian bear. He used to be KGB, so you watch out. Working for us, for me, it means a lot of trust, right? I'll make you rich, mercenary, but I have to trust you. You don't behave, I'll have Yosef kill you. He'd do it too.
The silver lining of making any given faction mad is that you can bribe them into coming back onto your side. One of the comparisons people make between Grand Theft Auto and Mercenaries is the open worldness. You are free to run around and shoot stuff all over the level in Mercenaries, but it takes things to another level by letting you actually blow up buildings and vehicles. Instead of just seeing an explosion and the building or car being fine seconds later, as in some Grand Theft Auto games, buildings topple and cars explode in Mercenaries. In fact, blowing stuff up isn't just a welcome gameplay perk, it's also quite essential in advancing through the game. You earn money for blowing stuff up. More specifically, your bankroll will grow if you destroy anything associated with North Korea. The money will be handy when you have to upgrade your arsenal or vehicle. The gameplay in Mercenaries can be rigorous right from the start. You are dropped into the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, and you immediately have to barrel through a bunker set up by the North Koreans on your way to Allied HQ. You are disguised as a member of the Allied powers, but your cover will be blown if you kill the North Korean soldiers. As you're driving to Allied HQ, bombs and gunshots are going off all around you and buildings are exploding. It's actually really immersive. Even when you're walking from spot to spot, you can hear, and sometimes see, bombs firing off and exploding near you, as well as stray gunfire all around you. The game holds your hand a little bit in that it shows you where to stand to be able to get into vehicles, as well as pops up hint boxes showing you how to perform different maneuvers. There's also a target reticle on the screen that turns red when you face an enemy, but it doesn't lock onto the target, so you'll have to pay attention and keep your aim. Once you finish a mission and capture a member of the Deck of 52, you have to call for backup to take them away, all the while still dodging fire from enemy soldiers. Excellent. The game remains mostly fluent pacing-wise. When you drop off a member of the deck, the game just continues, and you move on to the next mission, without cutscenes or loading screens. Cutscenes do come, but they don't interrupt gameplay, and they don't take forever to load. There are a few different ways to approach gameplay on Mercenaries. You can go in guns blazing with a salt the earth attitude, but you can, and sometimes are required, to use stealth to take out enemies. There are a ton of weapons and vehicles at your disposal in Mercenaries. Weapons and vehicles as far as the eye can see. There are a dozen different small arms weapons, including the standard shotgun, as well as more advanced weapons, including the Type 69 RPG. The RPG is generally carried by the Chinese, the North Korean army, and sometimes the Russians. The RPG isn't the most accurate weapon in the arsenal, but if you aim properly, it'll take out enemy vehicles with no problem. The AKM is generally used by the Korean People's Army, China, and the Venezuelan Army. The AKM is the most commonly used weapon throughout the game. The AKM is an older gun, which is evident in the relative lack of power compared to modern weapons. It's best used at medium and short range. If you're more into stealth, the SVD Dragunov sniper rifle would be ideal. It works best at long range and features a 10x zoom. The ammo on the Dragunov sniper rifle features bullets that can pierce light armor. There are also 3 stationary weapons. Those include the heavy machine gun. It can hold 500 rounds and is designed to be used at medium range, though it is capable of hitting targets farther away. The heavy machine gun doesn't do very well against vehicles, but it can mow down troops like nobody's business. The recoilless rifle is a more uncommon weapon. The rifle is designed to destroy larger vehicles, including tanks. The only possible downside of the rifle is that it does so much damage that it may end up hurting or killing your character. Last, but certainly not least, is my favorite weapon, the grenade launcher. This thing is badass. It is fairly rare in the game, and, similar to the recoilless rifle, is best used on tanks and large armies. It is different, however, from the rifle, in that it can be fired pretty rapidly. There are also 3 different explosives available in the game. The M67 fragmentation grenade has a short 15 meter, or 49 feet, range, and it can be easy for enemies to get out of its way. But it can also be cooked, or made to explode quicker. The flashbang grenade is one of the essential weapons in the game. The flashbang grenade is generally non-lethal, and, when thrown, emits a blue light that incapacitates any enemies in its range momentarily. Finally, there's the C4. The C4 is one of the strongest weapons in the arsenal. It's also the most versatile, allowing the player to be far away from their intended target and still be able to blow them up. Then there are the vehicles. Each regime has its own set of land and air vehicles. The Allied Nations has 3 different aircraft at its disposal. The YAH-56 gunship is one of the most powerful planes in the game. It's also one of the most elusive, found only when in the Kusong airspace, and their own areas in the northern province of North Korea. The CH-47 is a cargo ship that is rarely seen in the game. Its main task is dropping large vehicles during contracts. CH-47 is based off the Boeing CH-47 Chinook. The UH-60 transport plane is used to transport troops. The plane has 2 miniguns for protection. The miniguns are powerful, but can only be used on one side of the helicopter. On the ground, the Allied forces have a cargo truck, an M1 tank, an M1027 anti-war vehicle, an M1025 Scout, and an M1126 APC tank. The People's Liberation Army features a WZ-9 light attack helicopter, an Mi-17, and an S-70 transport plane. On the ground, the PLA has fuel and cargo trucks, a Type 80 and a Type 96 tank, a BJ-2020 Scout, a Type 95 anti-air vehicle, and an M1955 artillery vehicle. The Russian Mafia has a Ka-50 attack plane, an MD-530 Scout, and an Mi-26 transport helicopter. Their ground fleet includes an SUV, a VIP sedan, a tow technical vehicle, an M6 technical Jeep, and a GI technical that features a grenade launcher. South Korean Army features a K-60 troop transport plane, a K-53 Sea Stallion cargo plane, and the LHX light attack helicopter. Their ground fleet includes a cargo truck, a K-966 and K-1025 Scout, and K-200 APC and surveillance. Finally, there's the North Korean inventory. In the air, they have the Mi-17 transport plane, an Mi-2 light attack plane, an Mi-35 gunship, and MD-500 Scout. On the ground, the North Koreans have more than a dozen different vehicles, including a Frog 7 missile launcher, an M1955 artillery, and an SA-8 anti-air vehicle. In the sound department, Mercenaries is a mixed bag. On one hand, it doesn't just have generic butt rock all through the game as you take out enemy armies. The game features more symphonic music, composed by Michael Giacchino, best known for scores in films such as Mission Impossible, Jurassic Park, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Trek reboots.
Now let's take care of those artillery pieces.
Score was performed by the Northwest Symphonia, based out of Seattle. The soundtrack for Mercenaries is available on CD, and features 21 tracks included in the game. On the flip side, the voice acting, unfortunately, leaves something to be desired, which is a shame considering all the star power that lent voices for the game. The dialogue is cheesy and sounds like it was read from a script. There's very little emoting from the characters, with the exception of some one-liners from the main characters. The puns are cringy and sound like they're coming from your mother who's desperately trying to sound cool.
The Allies are stuck in it, and it's all because of this man here.
Yes, we've been discussing this. Couldn't this force us into a moral position? I mean, the guy's evil. He capped his own father after the coup. The media are all over it. Anyone operating in this theater is going to be famous.
Graphics in Mercenaries are amazing. All the vehicles and buildings are rendered perfectly, and the terrain is nearly lifelike. There's a muddy and smoky look to the levels, but in this case, that's a good thing. It lends some realism to the game that depicts a war scenario that can seem all too real. Overall, Mercenaries is a cathartic, basic, third-person shooter that allows you to blow up stuff, shoot enemy troops, and capture dictators. It's a futuristic war shooter, which touches on real-life battles, but doesn't take itself too seriously, and that is why I like it.